Well, that's good.
Yeah.
No, it just automatically
does it
does it because I was always afraid of it.
So we got participants here, we got chat here, and then we have attendees, and then here's John. So we're gonna promote the panelists, right? Okay.
Brian,
So
Jason
Jason,
is also trying to,
he should be able to.
and even Doug Silver.
John is now on.
So anybody,
Tell us to retry
it's
it.
gonna be the same meeting like that Brian set up. I don't know what happened to I think we're having technical difficulties because this was a special meeting that was set up, so let me, because we had it, all the regular meetings are good to go, and so, hey Brian, so we just, for whatever reason, the 5-1 meeting that we scheduled, it doesn't give us an option to start the meeting. So what I did was I went to the normal.
The template one that you set up for all public business.
Okay.
So I started that,
All right.
but I'm not sure if it's the same link. So we do have one attendee on it, John.
Because
I don't know. I think Doug is trying to join.
And
Doug was,
Jason,
yeah. Let me tell Doug to try again.
So,
if
so
they clicked on maybe the last agenda, that
if
was.
they go open
public
any other
information.
agenda.
Okay.
Can Jason find any other?
Hey Doug, if you could find the previous agenda and click on that link, it might work. You're having trouble with, I guess, the new link.
Special. How
So if
did
you can find
John
that.
get on?
Sorry about that.
I don't. You might use the
Don't have to.
normal one.
You know what?
Here's John, can you,
Want me to tell you what? Want me to find it? I'll
I
email it to you.
Yeah.
well, how did you get on? Did you click on the agenda link?
I used the link in the agenda, but I typed in the meeting number and password that are provided, and it got in no problem.
So it is the right one. Okay.
Yeah.
So it should be good.
Ash,
I think the problem is that whatever, however we set up the public internet.
Yeah.
It didn't give Lisa the option to start only edit. So Ashley's on as a panelist, and so as people come in, just promote to panelists, and we should be good at
Okay.
I'm really sorry.
Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you.
All right.
I-
Have a good night.
thank you.
So it's been 5 years. All right.
Make motion.
You've got to,
Okay,
you have to adjourn or start the meeting. So you
Testing,
can-
Ashley, can you hear us?
Details.
That's why he'll know.
I can hear you, yes.
And how did you get onto the meeting?
I just retested the link in the agenda and it worked.
Good. Good. I'm really sorry.
No problem, it happens.
Yes, want to wait for Mike to come back. As soon as Mike's here, we'll start, and whoever else can figure out how to join, that's fine. We have enough for a meeting, so.
Okay.
Just wait till Mike gets back. Is that the results of the 5th race at Pimlico? No.
Okay, after John, Doug is using the old link. For Jason, too.
So,
I think all links
I
will
just
work
sent him the
now.
old agenda.
Mike, I think everything's good. I think once we started the meeting, I think they can
Okay.
get in.
All right.
All right. Jason's at the door and it's locked.
Okay.
There he is.
Thanks, Doug.
So just promote Doug to panelists.
I think he's physically at the door.
Oh,
It's Jason, and it's locked. He's at,
Out there?
so I think he just sent me.
So
At
is
the door?
Jason?
Yeah, he's at
Oh,
the door.
does Jason not have any luck?
He's coming in the
He
front
might
door.
physically be
He's got a sledgehammer.
I
He
think
decided to.
He gave up on
Gave up.
electronically.
Do it easier.
You can't sit at home.
We're
really trying to get the link to work.
No, it wasn't you. It was on our end.
Yeah.
Actually, we're really trying to keep you out.
Look at the service, you get the mayor open the door for you.
Sorry.
All right, all set? Okay, call a meeting to order. Obviously, we're here to discuss slab moisture issue at the high school, and I'll start with two issues and then open it up for discussion. The first one, primarily for Ashley to give to the rest of the Board of Education, and that's the issue of safety. There's a problem. It is mold that's encapsulated in the floor. I'm sure there's a lot of concern from people who either do know or don't know or like spreading all sorts of gossip, but there's absolutely no reason for risk to students, to teachers, administrators, anybody that walks by, janitors, guests, vendors. It's encapsulated. So the only time there's going to be a problem here is if somebody gets down on the floor, scratches it, and makes the mold friable. I'm sure that's not going to be done, so the situation is ugly but safe. So Ashley, if you could just make sure that when people from the Board of Ed talk to you about that, it's safe, 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 ugly but safe. The second issue, what do we do? So there's recommendations in this report from WJE. It looks like we're going to have short-term fixes, which will be temporary, but we also have to look at a long-term solution that's permanent in nature. So that's, I think, where we're going to have the main discussion. I think we could just put safety aside, it's safe. So I'll open it up to anybody who wants to talk about the recommendations in the report and what you might think we should do, what we shouldn't do, because certainly we have to do something. Any takers?
You want John to talk?
I think the report's pretty thorough. John, you want to, everybody should have read the report and understands, I think, what was said. But maybe you could give a little bit of guidance as to what the short-term fix of this might look like.
Yeah, I think I think in the report, the basic gist of the report is that there doesn't seem to have been a vapor barrier underneath the existing slab on grade. And when the new VCT tile was put down there, you have moisture that's being driven up through the slab, and that along with the tiles is causing the mold. As you said, it's underneath the wax coating, so it's not airborne or anything like that. The recommendation would be, it's very simple to go around and remove not very simple, but easy enough to go around and remove the tiles where the mold is observed and just put new tiles in the interim. And there's a procedure from the certified industrial hygienist provided in the report for how to do that safely. And so the idea would be immediately we would go around and remove the tiles showing mold, just so people stop, people don't see it, and you don't have to listen to complaints or people thinking there's a major mold issue, or people thinking they're being exposed. So the initial idea would be that. The longer term plan would be to come up with a scope and a phasing plan to actually replace the flooring, which is really the only way you can fix it, because realistically you need some sort of vapor barrier put down. So there's topside vapor barriers. They're usually like epoxy based that you would put down, and then you would put this VCT tile back over it. So the idea would be doing like classrooms at a time where you have problems, or hallways that we have where we have problems showing, and just coming up with a phasing plan to work around and replace the tiles.
I think in the report you indicated there were some areas of repaired concrete that you noticed some of the problems in. Do you know if that was ever?
There's just areas where it looks like the floors were patched.
Right.
the floor slabs were patched, and those tend to be the areas where the joints between the VCT tiles have opened up, or it looks like the slabs have, maybe the patches have settled a little bit and you get cracked. That's why you're seeing cracked tiles. So those areas also could be fixed with, either localized repairs, but ultimately would be fixed with would be fixed as part of the more global repair. At this point, whatever settlement has probably occurred, so you would just fix that with like self-leveler as part of the replacement procedure.
So it doesn't indicate that's a priority area to fix. When you go back and do the permanent repair, you want to tackle those areas or put that in your primary phasing of work.
Yeah, you could. I mean, I don't think any of them are really presenting a trip hazard or anything. I think it looks bad. So if you wanted to put those in your earlier phases, that would work.
Just a question. So, I mean, the issue is twofold. I mean, it's the moisture in the food, the moisture that's always been there. And the only reason we're having a problem now is because the food that's the tile now that's only been there for the 8 years, because there's never been a vapor barrier there. There was not the code at the time it was installed. There was never a mold problem for the years up until the new tile. So is it a defective tile?
No, I mean, the moisture readings that we're reading in the existing slab on grade are way, way, way too high to have put flooring.
No, I understand that. No,
And-
but my point being is it was always that way.
It's a pre-existing.
It's a precondition. Yes, thank you. Say that 3 times. So I guess my point is the moisture's always been the issue. We never had the mold concern with the prior tile. Now we have a mold concern because we have food for the moisture, and the mold is always going to be prevalent. You can't eliminate mold from the environment. So we have a lot of moisture. We always have mold, and now we have a food source. So you put the 3 pieces together and you have the tile problem.
So, along the
Yeah, I mean,
lines,
was your existing tile white? What was there before?
Yeah,
I have no
that's
idea.
one of my questions. Doug, do you know what was there?
I mean, the thing is that there's very specific requirements for putting that tile down that weren't followed by the contractor. Like, the tile should not have been put down and they give in the specification what the moisture level should have been when they put the tile down. So now I said in the report, we don't have documentation of what they did, but the way the thing is behaving now, that tile should have never been put down. They should have done the moisture testing, and they would have realized, hey, these values are way too high to put this back down. We have to put a vapor barrier down first, which is very commonly done. So there's something happened during construction. So I wouldn't blame the tiles that were spec'd. I mean, yeah, maybe it turned out they were the food source, but they should have never been put down in that condition.
Okay.
Doug, do you know what the flooring was prior to this renovation? Was it a style, linoleum?
Correct. Yeah, VCT, direct, glue down, but it was a high VOC component, and part of the lead requirements of the renovation were to have the bio-based tile and adhesive low VOC. So the plans and specs, the reason we got all the money was because we followed the lead specs, which are the organic materials that were used. So to John's point, we're not quite sure if it coincided with the recommendations, but
the way I look at it, we have 2 paths to go down here. One is the legal path to see if there's any recourse against the builder's risk insurance, or maybe the E&O insurance by the architect or engineer. So that's one path we go down. Then the second path that we as this group should be focusing on is what we're going to put back in its place, come up with a spec for it, figure out how we're going to do it. If we put anything back, it could be, a ground type, a polished concrete with a sealer on it, and call it a day, or do we go back with VCT? I think we need to get an architect to look at that and understand those options and what they look like. So again, I think we have 2 separate paths here we need to go down. And I think for the discussion for this group, we should focus all our energy on what we're going to go back with in that area. I think that the town needs to run down the first item, legal recourse with the town attorney and understand what options we have that way. Because no matter what happens, we still have to fix it immediately or as soon as possible. And then if we have legal recourse against the builder's risk insurance, then that's great. So, I mean, we need to figure that out. But I think for everyone on this call right now and everyone that's in this room, we should just figure out how we're going to fix it. So John did put together the immediate fix to remove the tiles that are molded, put back the same tile basically we can put back in for now because it's only a temporary. And then anything on the elevated deck, John, we had no problems with the elevated decks, correct?
Right, no problems on the elevated decks.
Okay, so that's the last on our list for getting that work done. So the primary stuff is slab on grade. Preferably, I'd say do the classrooms first and then follow up with the hallways. So we just need to figure out what we're going to go back with. And again, I think we should probably bring an architect in to tell us what we need to do. We know we have the problem with the high moisture content. That's a given. So there are options for that. John, just why don't you go down a couple of options for that? You know, that we know that we have the high moisture content in the slab. What are our options in your opinion?
It would just be like whatever, when you take the floor up, there's various different, depending on what you put back, the manufacturer of what you put back will have a top applied vapor barrier that you put down. Usually they're epoxy based and it's just like a coating you roll on before you put the whatever your new flooring is in it. The moisture can't come up through it. So that's really you're not going to rip all the slabs out. So it's going to have to be a surface applied vapor barrier, but those are commonly used in renovations and they're fine.
Let me ask you this, applying a surface applied vapor barrier prior to these replacement tiles, even if it's a temporary fix, would that be problematic?
No, it just wouldn't really make sense because you're going to take a couple tiles out, you're going to put a couple tiles in, wasting the money putting a vapor barrier down in that little area. All that's going to happen is it's just going to move it out to the perimeter of the thing you just repaired. So it's kind of like not worth it for a cost. Like it's not worth wasting the money on it because it's not really going to help you. It's just going to move the water somewhere else, the moisture somewhere else. If you're going to do like a whole classroom, if you're going to do a whole classroom or a whole section of hall, then yes, you could put it down in segments. But I wouldn't do it for like isolated tiles here or there.
And the moisture problem, typically to keep the moisture low before you apply the tile, is it known to keep the moisture low to prevent a mold problem? Or is it strictly keep the moisture down so you don't have a problem with adhesion and sticking of the tiles? What's typically the moisture? How does that represent itself as a problem?
You won't have any moisture.
When you have the moisture, is it only create mold, or what is the typical problem with moisture? What is usually the problem?
Usually the moisture will cause whatever your adhesive is typically to fail. It wouldn't just be for mold. It would be for, you would likely get like adhesive failures of the tiles because they're not intended to be in a wet environment.
Do we have a lot of adhesive failure here, or is it just a mold?
I think there's areas where the tiles are bubbled up, which is areas where the adhesive's failing. We didn't walk the entire, we didn't identify every single spot in the entire school. That would have taken forever to do. We kind of went to the worst areas, but yeah, it's there.
The second floor, most of these problems are on the first floor. Is the second floor not subject to this because there'd be limited moisture on the deck? In other words, will
there shouldn't be any moisture on the deck.
With the products that were used and the lack of a moisture barrier on the second floor? Or
you wouldn't put a moisture barrier on the second floor. Usually when you have a slab on deck, 28 days or whatever passes and most of the moisture is out of the slab, and then you're able to put the tile down and there's no, you're not on soil, so you don't have a source constantly feeding it water. So that's why you don't have any issues on the second level.
So with these products that were used, we shouldn't see an issue on the second floor of the high school.
You shouldn't, no.
Okay.
Any slab on deck areas.
Yeah.
There's slab on grade.
And Also, the other thing is there are some pretty good sized areas when you look at the renovation drawings where they replaced like pretty big sections of the slab. And in those areas, they did specify a vapor barrier under any new concrete they poured, there's vapor barrier underneath them. So there are probably areas where the slab was repaired, maybe not the small little ones, but the bigger areas that are shown on the drawings. Those bigger areas where the slabs were removed and replaced, they have a vapor barrier under them. So you shouldn't be seeing problems in those areas either.
Yeah, in the outbuilding, there should
John, could you mark up a drawing showing that for us? Where, where we replace the slabs and it has a vapor barrier versus the areas that don't?
Yeah, I can pull the drawings out of the set.
That'd be great.
Have we quantified the temporary fix, how much of an area is and how much the permanent fix is gonna be? And maybe a question for Doug, at least on the temporary stuff. How much, are we talking about one box? Are we talking about a pallet full of boxes, or what are we talking about for tiles? Replacing those temporarily?
Let me ask you a different question, Doug. Do we have any tiles left?
We do have some closet stock, but I don't believe it's going to be enough to encompass the areas in question. But it would be the same product that's given us the issue. We don't have the solution tile in stock. We have the same tile that was applied during the project in stock.
Yeah, is that tile, do you know if that's available or if that's been discontinued? Any idea about?
Correct. It's been discontinued from the manufacturer. So the recommendation is to replace it with a VCT. No longer available, no new old stock. It's just what we have in the building. Yeah.
I'm beginning to wonder why that's no longer available and been discontinued. But so if we have to get new tile, well, we're going to have to rip it up anyway.
Yeah, so I mean,
temporarily, so it doesn't really matter what we
as long as
put
it's
down.
white, similar.
Yeah, because we're going to take the whole deck and do something else.
Just a question.
Go ahead,
Just
sir.
curious. So we get the old tile off, we take all the old tile off, do you need to put tile back down? Do you do something else?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about.
I think that's what Don's saying.
There's a lot of
Get an
opinions.
architect in to
Yeah,
look
My
at what the
recommendation
option.
would be no.
No.
I never liked tile from the first place. It's a commercial building, effectively. I mean, it's got a heavy traffic.
Well, they have a lot of good epoxy coatings.
Yeah,
But that's not tile.
No, but I've
Yeah, there's a lot of other
there's a lot
things
of
that I
good
think
looking
will hold
epoxy
up other
coatings
Stuff you could do.
that you can
A
do
lot
that.
better that I think would be far superior to the tile. But the tile was pushed because of the leads
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
And, we got what we got, so.
Right.
We've got lead.
And now, would you not need to do the upper floors that are not on? They would seem like we have.
It doesn't seem like we have an
Seem like
issue.
we need
Yeah.
to.
The issue is really the moisture, and if there's no moisture up there, leave it well enough alone. We might be better off saving the tiles for upstairs. Just start ordering new tiles and save the tiles that we have now for upstairs in case we have to replace any of those.
I think our immediate thing is, if the town council's in agreement, let's bring an architect in, let's figure out what we need to do.
Yeah.
As far as what makes sense for design wise, what products are available, let's get someone in here and sit them down and start figuring out that, go down that road. And then we could, once they're done with their design, then we can put a number on it and understand what we're talking about. If John marks up a drawing showing there is where we already have a vapor barrier on slab on grade, we don't have to do those, or we could do them later down the road. The immediate need is anywhere where we're getting the moisture infiltration, to get that done immediately would be the goal. So we end this problem there. Elevated deck, same thing. I wouldn't worry about that so much. If on the second level, if there's elevated deck and then we also go into a slab on grade, John, take a look at that as well and mark that up for us.
Okay.
Any idea, the scope of companies that are willing and able to do work like this? Is there a lot, a few specialized? Any idea?
It's all flooring coating companies that jump on.
Flooring?
So the-
Flooring contract? Oh, there's plenty of flooring contractors.
That would be willing to do something like this, patch and then go on to something later. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we wouldn't need to follow the lead for the new tile, right? Because it's not part of the main project. That's over.
So done.
So we can use VCT.
But we have a problem that needs to be fixed.
Right.
So the architect's gonna let them tell us what we need to do, because we don't want to own this problem forever. Let's get an architect. But again, Ryan, for the town, talk to the town attorney.
Yeah.
And see what we could do, because that's what we hired John Coco just for this reason, is to pull together all the information if we're going to go down the legal road.
Yeah.
So,
I'll talk with Jeff.
Yeah.
We'll go from there.
okay. Because again, I think you may have recourse against the builder's risk policy. They may have recourse against the E&O from the architect.
You figured they would have signed off. They would have sent some report in if they did it.
Well, the information's in the spec about the moisture, about
Right.
saying that you can't install the floor if the RH is over, I think it's 75% or something like that is what the spec said. I think the bigger question would be from whoever the contractor was, like, what did they do? Did they do the testing before they put the floor down? And if they did, like, where and how many tests did they do? Because for a building of that size, you should be doing lots of, quite a few tests, because it could vary over the area. So where did they did they do the testing, and where did they do the testing? Because they definitely put I don't see how they didn't really change anything. Like the moisture problem, I don't see how it could not have been there before. You didn't change anything really related to the soils or grade or anything around that existing building that would have introduced a new water source or something like that. So I'd be more curious from the contractor, do they have documentation in their file from this showing that they did these moisture tests, and where did they do them, and how many did they do? Because if that would be, they didn't follow the spec as far as making sure that, there should have been an RFI that came out that said, hey, the moisture content's too high, what do we do? And then it would have been like, oh, you put a vapor barrier down first before you put the VCT down, and you wouldn't have had a problem.
I wonder if they did the tests in the new slab on grade area and the slab on.
Yeah, right. Where did they do the test? And yeah.
So
Might that be in any of the paperwork we have? Or it should be.
It should be in there.
It should be in there, right?
But then also the CM would have had
Right.
documentation of that too.
But again, if they didn't
I know.
document the locations of where they did it,
Then it's,
but then that opens up again. So builder's risk insurance, and,
Again, I think the concern would have been the humidity, the moisture, about the adhesion problem and concern. And it hasn't represented itself, at least not significantly. I mean, yeah, there's bubbling and whatnot, but the thing that slaps you in the face is the obvious mold, what you see. So to me, it wasn't, the moisture's there, it created a problem, but it didn't create a problem until you saw the mold.
Yeah, well, in the previous tile we had here had a petroleum-based adhesive,
So
and then in the tile itself, there was VCT acted as the vapor barrier.
Right.
And once that was removed, and we had to go with the low VOC, let's call it plant-based tile, that was the food source for the mold. It has the darkness in the food source, so it grows. I
Well,
mean,
and it comes at the edges where it can get between that surface coating and then where the tile itself is.
so I think we have the answer of what happened and how it happened. It's just a matter now how we repair it. And I think we have two paths to run down. And I think right now, John, continue what you're doing to finalize everything. Do a little more research into the documentation, see if you can find anything. And if not, the lawyers will take it from there. But I think our main goal is just get it fixed as quickly as we can, as efficiently as we can, to end the problem.
So we'll work on an agenda item, to get an architect for the slab. But in the meantime, we still have those tiles that are we going to mitigate those now temporarily?
Yeah, we have to.
So we're gonna,
well, first we got to hire somebody to do it. We can't have, Doug and his crew, go down their hands and knees.
You can
do
get,
that.
Doug, do we have any open contracts with SRM or Servpro or someone like that?
We do, yes. We have a contract that it's able to take on the project per the report if need be.
Yeah, so why don't you get some pricing on that as soon as you can, and how quickly they can repair it, and then also see if we can get a substitute tile put back in there so we don't use up all your attic stock. And again, we don't care, we're gonna rip it up anyway, so long as it's close match, and then we'll just glue it back down, and it'll buy us another couple of years. Hopefully we don't need it that long, but at least it'll buy us some time.
Sounds
Because I
good.
think,
If we don't put plant-based, we're not gonna have the mold on the new
correct,
tiles anyway.
Right,
correct. We're gonna
right.
grind it all off
Right.
and we're gonna go from there with something else.
So we can start, we don't need to wait for an architect then to do that.
No,
Okay.
I
Well,
would,
if we get, if they're on call, you're
Okay.
right.
Yeah, because I'm sure Ashley's gonna be fielding calls from parents, how soon is this gonna get out of here? And at least that kind of helps buy us time while we
Correct.
work and get the architect.
I'd bring in Serpro or Service Master, whoever you got on, let them start doing it I do it on Saturdays. I wouldn't even do it during the week. And just get it out of there.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna need Ashley's help to coordinate, obviously, with the school to make sure that we're not stepping on anybody's toes or interfering, but that's easy enough to do.
As soon as they pull up the tile, they're gonna hit it with a mold inhibitor
Yeah.
anyways, and then they're gonna reglue it back down.
Yep.
So,
But I don't know what our threshold is dollar-wise to, we gotta start somewhere, but we're gonna need some money.
well, if he pulls together the budget for removal of the tiles, that's step
Right.
one.
Yeah.
Step two, we need money for the architect to come up with the new design, what we're putting in there.
Right.
Then once we get that design done, then we go out to bid and get some numbers to
I'm
do
more
it.
concerned with those, starting with do we have enough money? I mean, I have no idea what it might cost. 50 grand, 200 grand, 10 grand,
Till they
probably
finish,
not that much, but
I did speak with our finance director already about this. I mean, he's well aware and
Okay.
we'll explore options and bring
We'll
it to the
find-
county.
yeah,
well,
yeah, no, I,
Yeah.
so, gotta do what we gotta do. I
We
realize
still do have some remaining dollars from the school reimbursement that we can use immediately for this. So that might probably be the best place to start.
and it's not everywhere.
Right.
It's gonna be what John comes back with anything slab on grade is gonna be it. So where we have the new slab on grade is not an issue because the vapor barrier was installed. Elevated decks, it's not gonna be an issue. So we're talking an area,
Basically the
but
old
it's still a
school.
big area.
It's still the old school.
Yes, and we also have a very robust fund, balance.
Yeah.
Reserve.
And like I said,
If we need it, it's that important to get this done as fast as possible.
so we would commit the dollars, document the process. John, are you available to document the whole process? Because let's say if we go down the legal road, we're gonna need all that information. So if it goes to a legal battle, that we're well documented.
What do you mean by documented? The repairs?
Yes.
As far as what do you want documented? I mean, like we can observe what is done, but I mean, they're literally just taking a tile out and putting a temporary one back in. Or what do you want to document? Like the locations where they're done?
Yeah, I'm talking for the long-term fix and what we're doing. I just want to document it with another set of eyes. We're gonna have the original architect do it. But again, on the legal side, I'm gonna need someone that's been down that road before, and you have.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. It's a whole testifying thing and deposition thing.
Oh, yeah, fun time.
Yeah.
And that company, right, you mentioned, to me, they're out of business.
They're out of
right? That
business.
made that.
Yeah.
Wonderful product.
Ashley, are you okay talking to Brian about this? And if he has any questions, he can call any one of us, or actually he can call the mayor or call Ryan and get sort of a.
Yeah, I have a meeting with him tomorrow morning regarding tonight's meeting.
Okay.
All right, so if he has any questions, just, I guess, report back through Mike or the mayor or Ryan to us, and we can obviously get them answered as quickly as possible, but I think for him, he's well armed with the risk to the general population that's walking over those tiles is de minimis. And we're starting a program to fix it. So in case the parents are calling them or, who else is calling them, reporters, I think it's well in hand what we're going to do to repair and get rid of this issue, both short-term and long-term.
I think one of his biggest concerns is just going to be scheduling in the sense of even the short-term fix. How soon is this going to start? Because as soon as this gets out that it's mold, and I read the report several times, so I understand there's not a lot of mold in the air. It's all encapsulated. As far as a health and safety risk, we seem to be at a good spot there. But you can't deny parents' health and safety of their children are the first thing, and that they're going to hear mold, and that's going to be the end of it. You know what I mean? And we could try to talk them off the ledge the best we can. Go out there with the message saying it's encapsulated, it's not a health, but we are going to get pushback from the parents, and it's kind of making sure that we're all on the same wavelength with that.
Ashley, so what we have is the industrial hygienist that we hired for the project. She's available at any time to talk to the Board of Ed, yourselves, and the parents. So if you want to hold a meeting, which I strongly recommend you do, and bring her in and let her talk to you guys. Again, she's the industrial hygienist, and John will be there as well. Just give them enough notice, lead time, so they could make sure their schedule allows for that.
I think Brian, Ashley, when I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago about this, he wanted to do it maybe at a Board of Ed meeting and obviously get it out to the public.
Yeah, he mentioned that. So it's possible we have a meeting coming up on the 12th. It's possible maybe we could get somebody on the schedule for that, even if it's just via Zoom.
Yeah, I would get it on that.
John, does that work with your schedule?
I'm sorry, what was the date you mentioned?
12th, May 12th.
May 12th.
Yeah.
7 p.m.
6 p.m.
6. I think they do their meetings at Board of Ed.
But where's that held?
The high school.
Upstairs. Oh,
So
No,
auditorium.
it's held in the central office typically, unless there's a special presentation.
You do it at the high school? In case
We could ask, sure, certainly. It depends on if there's an event already scheduled, but I'll check that tomorrow morning.
Yeah, Monday, May 12th would work. If you could send me if somebody could send like a meeting invite for it, that'd be great. But yeah, I'll put it in for Monday, May 12th.
And then also get a hold of the IH and make sure she's available for it as well.
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
What may occur. What else?
Think you get a big crowd for that, parents?
Probably. I
Think so?
would guess you would. I don't know.
Depends.
Actually, say
Yeah, I'm sure it will be a big crowd. I would think you got to do it.
You gotta be there.
Well, how long
Is
are
that
they
meeting
going?
is that meeting like a Zoom? Is that a Zoom component meeting?
Yeah, it'll be Zoom too.
Okay.
We don't typically do that. We have it available for live, but we could make you a Zoom panelist. Yes.
Well, I can come in person. It's just that the industrial hygienist is in Cape Cod. So for have her drive all the way out and back for the meeting, if she could be on Zoom, I don't mind coming in person. But I can get her to come in person. It would just be easier for her if she could just call in though.
Ashley, can we make it a Zoom meeting? A regular Zoom meeting?
Yeah, we could. We'll probably do both. We'll set it up as both. Absolutely.
Really? To pay her expenses, yeah, I think she
Yeah.
should.
Hey,
be there
John?
first.
Yes.
Just have her come. Whatever the expenses are, we'll pay for it.
Okay.
Or just have her there.
But I mean, we can make a Zoom meeting for the public, so they could Zoom. Can't make it. Is that possible, Ashley?
I believe so. They just. I don't know if they could. I'll have to get back to you on that. I just don't know if they could participate. I think they could only view. But I
Yes.
will double check.
That's all you'd want. You want
Yeah,
them
you
to view
want-
only, no
Right.
comment?
Yeah.
And then they use the chat if they have any questions.
Yep.
Did you say it's at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m.? Sorry.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Okay.
I hope in the Becky auditorium they could do the Zoom meeting.
We'll set them up with a webinar, right?
There you go.
Lisa will run it.
Lisa? We pick you.
So Mark, I don't know if you're aware, but the entrance to the auditorium has a lot of damaged tiles. Okay. So you're gonna have a lot of people noticing the damaged tiles there.
Like out in vetted tarpaulins,
Maybe we can get a big carpet.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, get a roll out carpet.
put a red carpet for everybody who's coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what other bigger, well, you could do it at McGee too, I guess. You wanna do it at McGee?
Just do it at the high school, show it
I mean,
safe.
I'd rather do it at the high school. honestly,
Show it
but-
safe.
But,
Yep.
you know, if the high school booked or whatever's going on. Yeah. Yeah, we could demonstrate. That's like,
Everyone leave their COVID masks at home. Joking.
Just stay on the top of the pile.
passing out respirators as they walk in. Is that a good idea, you think?
Channel 3.
No. Just thinking that somebody should show up. With
Yeah.
this.
Oh, yeah.
If
There's no more
the
questions.
hygienist report is available on paper,
It's appendix E. It's E, one of the appendices in the report.
All right, I think we've beaten this horse to death. Any more questions? We can all.
No.
I
Appreciate
think
you guys.
I need Tom Salamino's favorite words.
What?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Hey, you want to stay later?
Aye.
You guys are really early. You should count the meetings to the 11.
Thank you guys for.
Good night, all.
Hi, thank you.
These organized also.
Thank you.